Hello, and welcome to Reality Check, where we discuss the ethical implications of all things technology. Today's episode is about something very important, which is voice recognition software, something that millions of users experience daily. Let's get into the interview. So, Divya, can you give me a little rundown of yourself and kind of who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to be here today. Thanks for having me. I'm Divya. I recently completed my undergrad at Berkeley, where I studied computer science and some linguistics. I'm currently a master's student at Columbia, where I'm studying computer science and focusing on machine learning. This summer, I'm an intern in JP Morgan's Machine Learning Center of Excellence, where I'm working on some interesting problems related to large language models and speech recognition. So yeah, happy to talk about a little bit about how I got here, why I'm interested in this space. But yeah, I'll let you lead the conversation.
Cool. It sounds like you're kind of into a lot of different fields at the same time. I did read a little bit of your research paper, which was highlighting the challenges of speech recognizers in non-American accents. Can you share some specific examples of those challenges?
Yeah, totally. So as my interest in linguistics led to natural language processing and speech processing, I began to notice certain limitations with existing speech and voice tools. So, over the past several years, digital assistants and virtual assistants have become more and more ubiquitous. And I would notice, my family members struggling to use some of these tools because they were unable to comprehend their accents, for example. Or through some of my research, I came across the field of speech pathology and how people with different speech variations or speech impediments might also struggle to use certain tools which aren't robust to different manners of speaking. So this got me thinking about how inclusivity in speech technology is a real issue that needs addressing, and is what got me interested in the spaces of speech recognition technology and more generally machine learning for these applications. So, you know, when we think about speech recognition technology, we often assume it works seamlessly for everyone, but that's really not the case. Most of the existing models are predominantly trained on data sets that are heavily skewed towards North American English or generally Western English speakers. And so this naturally leads to less accurate recognition for users with different accents. So, for example, consider someone from India or someone from Scotland or even someone from a particular region of the United States, somewhere that's known for its distinct regional accent. And, a simple command like call home or something similar can turn into a pretty frustrating interaction. And so, these challenges aren't just about individual inconvenience, but they also reflect a broader issue of inclusivity in tech development. So when AI systems fail to accommodate a wide array of users, it essentially sidelines a really big segment of the global population, from benefiting from AI systems and specifically in this case, voice recognition technologies. So yeah, that's where I'll start.
Wow, that was really interesting. Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. My parents, their accents definitely had some trouble understanding in the early years of assistants and AI assistants, stuff like that. What are some examples of things that you did to change and adjust the models to understand a diverse array of accents?
Yeah, so I think it would be more interesting to look at, what some big companies with a lot of resources have currently been working on. So, I brought up some of the challenges of bias in systems like this, but there are promising solutions and ongoing efforts that are making pretty significant strides. So, one of the key approaches, which, I've also explored extensively in my research, is simply diversifying the data sets that you're working with to train these models. So by including a wider array of speech patterns from regional accents across the US to various forms of English spoken globally, systems can learn to recognize and understand a broader spectrum of users. So I know that some time ago, Google came out with an end-to-end model that was both multilingual and multi-accent speech recognition. So this aims to be more inclusive of global variations in spoken English. Siri on your phone is now multilingual, at least on the perception side. So, other prominent tech companies have similarly been working to integrate more diverse data sets into their systems. So that's one thing from the data side. Something that really fascinates me is also the field of transfer learning and multitask learning. So that's where you allow a model that's trained on one task or data set to apply its learning to a different yet related task or data set. So, for example, a model that's trained extensively on American English could then adapt or like transfer its learning to better understand a model that's geared towards a specific dialect of English using a smaller set of data. So those are a couple of approaches. And another approach which I've come across in my research is this growing community effort among academic and research institutions to create more open and inclusive data sets. So, for example, a data set that I've worked with a lot is Mozilla's Common Voice. So this is a crowdsourcing project which aims to almost democratize voice data collection by allowing people from all over the world to contribute their speech samples. So initiatives like these really help to build more balanced data sets that are reflective of the world's linguistic diversity. And so this is a good start in tackling some of these challenges.
That's really interesting. I always kind of knew in the back of my mind that you have to diversify the data sets, but I never really thought about how an existing model that's trained on American English, for example, could adjust to different dialects. So, in your opinion, what does inclusivity mean concerning developing AI technologies, especially in speech recognition?
Right. So in the context of speech recognition, we've already discussed, systems needing to be more robust to different speech variations. We've talked about accents and dialects. Inclusivity means, also including people who have speech impairments, whether that's like a stutter or a lisp or other kind of speech disorder, because often current technologies are pretty inadequate. So beyond speech variations, I think inclusivity also involves the thoughtful integration of AI across different socioeconomic groups and educational backgrounds. So technology, I think, should be designed to be both intuitive and user-friendly, regardless of a person's tech savvy level or their access to cutting-edge hardware. So this could mean developing lightweight models that run efficiently on lower end devices, which are more common in developing countries, or creating interfaces that are otherwise easy for everyone to use, from tech novices all the way to experts. So, as you mentioned, I think ethical considerations like privacy and data protection are also integral. Users need to be able to trust that their interactions with AI, especially when it involves personal or sensitive information, are secure, and that their data isn't being misused or exploited. So with that in mind, I think inclusivity is about building systems that recognize and respect the full diversity of human speech in the context we've been discussing, but also more broadly human circumstances. Trying to make sure that AI technology can serve everyone fairly and act as a tool for empowerment rather than exclusion.
I think that was a really good summary. On the other end of the spectrum, kind of, what are some potential risks of overly simplistic approaches to inclusivity in AI? Maybe kind of the Google Gemini assistant in its earliest releases, and how can these be prevented?
Right. So I think adopting overly simplistic approaches to inclusivity in AI development, as you mentioned, can lead to inadvertently excluding or misrepresenting certain user groups. So, this is particularly evident not just in speech technologies, but also areas like facial recognition or any kind of predictive analytics. And now, what's most relevant is generative AI, as you were mentioning. So I think to prevent these issues, it's really crucial to involve a broader spectrum of voices and experiences in the development process from the get-go. So that's from the developer level all the way to perhaps advisory panels consisting of people from different ethnic backgrounds, genders, and abilities to really guide the development process. So I think you also want to make sure that every step of the way you're conducting really rigorous testing across various scenarios that reflect the real world. And so, for example, software should be tested across a broad demographic spectrum to make sure that it performs well for all users. AI models should be regularly audited for bias, and their training data sets should be continuously updated to reflect, a balanced view of the current state of the world. And so, as we've been talking about, transparency as well about how AI systems make decisions, or the field of explainable AI can also help mitigate these risks. So by integrating these practices into AI development, I think we can better anticipate and mitigate the risks associated with some of these overly simplistic approaches.
Cool. So, are there any last thoughts, final messages you'd like to share?
I think we've really covered a lot of what I really care about. As you go forward with, what you develop, just be mindful and yeah, keep in mind, who's going to be using your tools, who's going to be using your products every step of the way. How are you giving it your best effort to make what you're building as robust as possible?
Thank you so much. That was a really filled interview. I feel like I learned so much from that.